Welcome, 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 everybody. Hi, I'm Jed Meshew with MMAfighting.com, and you're on MMAfighting.com's YouTube channel right now. We're doing something a little different, something a little new. We're going to do a live chat. This is an idea I pitched a little while back. It's not something we've ever done before, but I always feel like on big fight nights, I want to get out there, kind of talk, talk through what I'm feeling, what just happened, and I feel like a lot of fans probably want to as well. So we're going to give you an opportunity to do that. Don't worry, you're still going to get kind of all the normal regular coverage you'll get from us. You're going to get a post-fight show from Jose and Alex, but you just kind of get this on top. So UFC 240 just wrapped up, and I'm pretty excited to kind of talk about it. First things first, I guess we should probably go over what happened, everything that occurred. Your main event winner, Frankie Edgar, came up short against Max Holloway. Your featherweight champion retains his title. I feel like that's kind of everything we expected. We'll get back and talk with that whenever more you guys get in here and start firing away questions. Shoot them at me and we'll go. But for now, I'll just kind of do a quick run through your co-main event. Chris Cyborg gets back to her winning ways, takes a unanimous decision over Felicia Spencer. Probably the most exciting fight of the night, arguably, certainly the most exciting fight of the main card for my money. Jeff Neal knocking out, stopping Nico Price in the second round. With punches from the guard. Arman Sarukian. He won a unanimous decision over Olivier Aubin-Mercier. And then Christoph Jocko rounding out your main card with a split decision win over Marc-Andre Barrios. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. I'm just going to go ahead and apologize if I mispronounced any names. It's just sort of what's going to happen here. I'm not great at that. Rounding out the rest of the card, Vivian Araujo. Vivian Araujo takes unanimous decision over Alexis Davis. Unfortunate turn for Alexis Davis. Kind of a pioneerish category of mixed martial arts competitor. And just hasn't been able to put things together for the last little stretch here. Hakeem Dawodu, the highlight of the night, probably going to get a performance bonus. Knocked out Yoshinori Ori. Gavin Tucker submits Sungwoo Choi. Arguably your fight of the night, Davison Figueiredo takes unanimous decision over Alejandro Pantoja. And then in your early prelims, Jillian Robertson TKOs Sarah Frota, and Eric Koch making a successful move up to welterweight, gets unanimous decision over Kyle Stewart. So at this point, we're going to turn things over to you guys. Whatever you want, however you want to do it, let's have some fun with it. I will say this: we still have our crew live on site, so keep it locked here to the YouTube channel. Keep it locked to the Twitter. Keep it locked to MMAfighting.com. You're going to be getting all that good content, the post-fight presser, everything about that. You're just getting this on top, getting you a place to get immediate hot takes, immediate venting, get your thoughts out there. Why don't we start with the main event though? Because it is what just wrapped up. It is probably the most important thing that happened. I mean, it's certainly the most important thing that happened, but for my money, that kind of is what I expected. Some things maybe you didn't expect there, but at the end of the day, Frankie Edgar, he's just not going to get that second belt that he really wants. It's unfortunate for him. This is a man who very, very clearly wanted to be one of the greatest of all time, considers himself one of the greatest of all time, and frankly, he is. Frankie Edgar's a top 20 fighter ever. There's no denying that. Just the question comes: is he a top 10 guy ever? I think there's a case. I don't think ever. There's no denying. Firing that up. I think there's a case. I just don't think. How can I say this? I don't think he is. I think he's a top 20 guy. And if a couple other things that had broken his way, maybe. But I'm excited to see what he does now. I think he should have dropped to 135. I'm seeing in the comment section people kind of have mentioned that before, and he should have. He definitely should have dropped down. 135 feels like his natural weight class. And frankly, I'm not against a Henry Cejudo fight. I am right now coming off the loss. Cejudo needs to fight Aljamain Sterling if he's going to be at bantamweight. But kind of aside from that, if Frankie had won this fight, I wrote about it today. I think they should have done Frankie Cejudo. So tremendous. But let's kind of get into some of your questions here. Let's see what we got. Frankie didn't deserve this 9th title shot. It was a gimme fight for Max. That's what you would have thought. I would have thought it was a gimme fight, and that's what I said. I said right before the fight, I thought that there's no real world in which Max Holloway doesn't win that fight. At the end of the day, he did win it, but I think he looked a lot less dominant than I expected, and probably a lot of people expected. I'm not sure what to put that to. Partly, I think that may be a Frankie Edgar thing. Frankie Edgar is a tricky guy to fight. I mean, the man's gone to split decisions, to shifty unanimous decisions for a little while, or at least with a number of other people. He's just kind of a hard guy to get a beat on. He's game as they come. But at the same time, Max did start a little slow, and I'm not sure what to put that on. It looked in the middle rounds like Max might be able to turn it up and put the screws to Frankie, but he's kind of never was able to get him out of there. It looked like he hurt him a couple of times, but he pulled his foot off the gas. Frankie got that key takedown when he looked like he was really in trouble. So that's an interesting fight. I'll tell you what, this fight made me maybe the most interested in is the Volkanovski fight for Max. I think Volkanovski is frankly just kind of a younger, next level version of Frankie Edgar. And if Frankie was, I don't want to say giving Max problems, because I think he won at least 4, if not 5 rounds, regardless of what a blind judge may say. I think Volkanovski can certainly put the screws to him, make things interesting. I'm seeing Zabis versus Holloway going to be great. That will also be a good fight, but Zabis not going to get that title shot yet. He's got to get a little bit more work in. Volkanovski's certainly up next. But yes, one day, Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Max Holloway is going to be amazing. I'm totally with that. So what else do you gentlemen want to talk about? Figueroa Pantoja was a great fight. It was a great fight. I think that's probably going to get your fight of the night performance bonus at the end of all things. But I mean, we'll see it. It was a weird card. It was a card that didn't have a lot of interest in it, frankly, at least for me. I know I'm supposed to pretend like all of this is exciting and interesting, but really this felt like a top 2 fight card. And kind of feel a little awkward about that as well, because I didn't think Felicia Spencer vastly outperformed my expectations. Really, it was just kind of watch the Cyborg show, and then that didn't quite happen. But a lot of other things turned up. Jeff Neal, Nico Price was always going to be a banger. That's just amazing. But kind of beyond that, I didn't expect a lot. And the main card fights beyond those 3 weren't the best. We'll just put it like that. But there were a couple other hidden gems on there as well. Felicia Spencer had way more for Cyborg than I thought. Yeah, Keel, I totally agree. I think everyone agrees. I think Joe Rogan, we're going to get to Joe Rogan because it was not his best night on the mic. He vastly overblew the Cyborg is super gassed. But, I do think there was a little bit of truth to that. Cyborg came out like a house on fire. I don't know if that was emotion. I don't know if she just thought she saw something and could come just blow through Felicia, but she wasn't able to, and it did look like maybe she had spent a little bit too much energy. She recomposed herself and got back on track, but I don't know what Spencer's made of, but it's some pretty serious stuff here. She was getting dinged just with a ton of shots. Chris Cyborg is a woman who's put almost everyone she's faced away, and Spencer ate through them like there was nothing else. So, props to Felicia Spencer. Maybe this is finally something that's going to get some actual traction for a featherweight division with the UFC. I still doubt it. I think Cyborg's probably out. She's probably going to Bellator. And at that point, I'm not sure why you're keeping around a featherweight division for Nunes, who's already your bantamweight champion. Yes, I am Luke. I am a foot shorter and beardless Luke. That's basically exactly who I am. She could easily make 135 and get a lot of girls a hard time. I'm not sure that Felicia Spencer could easily make 135. I do think that she probably could. But I don't know why she would want to do that unless the UFC cuts the featherweight division. I mean, she's sort of your de facto number 3 featherweight in the world behind Nunes and Cyborg right now. And if that's a division they have any intention of building, going down to bantamweight, I think she could give a lot of those good fighters at least issues. I'm not entirely sure how well her game translates to some of the competitors down there, because frankly, she's still kind of raw, especially on the feet. She's a willing striker, really good chin, and a good grappler, but she does a lot of things that kind of I have questions about how they would fare out kind of against a higher level of competition that you sort of expect to see at bantamweight. And why should she do that? She's one of the best featherweights in the world. If the UFC is intent on building a division, feels like maybe it might be the time. Great for her. And then she doesn't have to cut that weight. Who wants to cut weight? Frankie needs to retire. Sad, sad, sad. You know, I'm not 100% sure Frankie needs to retire. In fact, I don't think he needs to retire. It's coming soon, but just not necessary. He didn't look spent out there. He looked a little old and a little slow, but he's fighting the best guy in the world. Props on him. Thoughts on who should fight Max next? I mean, that's an easy one. Alexander Volkanovski is next in line. He deserves to be next in line. And I think it's a really good fight. I'll tell you another thing I thought about this fight, and here's something I never would have suspected coming in. I'm a lot more interested in Max Holloway versus Henry Cejudo than I have any right to be. I still think Max wins. Don't get me wrong. And again, I think Max beats Alexander Volkanovski. I want to be very clear here. He certainly at least has done enough to earn that favorite, I guess, to earn being the favorite in that position. But Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson, that is a tremendous super fight. Sorry, I got distracted. But I think Volkanovski's going to give him problems. I still think Max probably will get it. But I was shocked at kind of how effective Frankie was at the wrestling aspect of it. Henry Cejudo is a better wrestler than Frankie Edgar, just both in MMA terms and in actual terms. I think that's kind of unquestionable, given his pedigree. And he is not, say what you want about Frankie being still an elite competitor, he is. He's definitely on the downside of his career. I don't think you can argue that point. He's 37 years old. He's just not a spring chicken anymore. Henry Cejudo is also, a great wrestler, a good wrestle boxer kind of guy. The question just sort of for me then becomes, can he get in? And Frankie was having a lot of success getting in on Max's hips. Max was able to kind of shut that down at the second and third levels. But I'd be interested to see if Henry's going to be faster than Frankie, if he can get in like that. That makes that fight a little more interesting than I expected. I don't think we're going to see it. Hopefully we don't, because it doesn't need to happen. Cejudo has 2 belts he needs to be dealing with instead of chasing a third one that he probably can't win. But I will just say this fight kind of opened things up in the featherweight division, or at least for my interest level, a lot more than I expected them to be. Edgar versus Aldo again. We don't really need to see Edgar versus Aldo again. Conor would destroy Max again. I don't think that's true. I'm fairly certain Max would run through Conor at this point. At featherweight, at lightweight, it gets a lot more interesting. Conor does cut a ton. Obviously, Max also cuts a ton as well. But Conor clearly had a better acclimatization. I'm not sure how to say that. Is better suited at lightweight, I think, than he was at featherweight, and has done better at lightweight. Granted, Max has only had the one against Dustin Poirier, but I think at lightweight that fight is structurally different than it would be as a rematch at featherweight. But I think at featherweight, Max is a terrible style matchup for Conor. Another fight I'd absolutely love to see. Crap pay-per-view card. It's not a card that you are going to feel like you got your money's worth, but if you bought it, you sort of knew what you should have been getting in anyway. So I don't feel super bad for any of us for watching it. It wasn't a bad night of fights. Let's just take it as it is. Why are we still talking about Conor? He hasn't won a fight. He hasn't won, I'm assuming, a fight in 3 years, because we kind of always talk about Conor. It's just the nature of MMA. He's the biggest star the sport's ever had. He still is the biggest star. And this is a division he never officially lost in the UFC. So makes sense to talk about Conor. I guarantee you at some point Max is going to say Conor's name over the next couple of months, even though he's got Volkanovski next. And that's a great fight. It's just the way the MMA world works. Conor dominated Max, turned him into a defensive fighter. That was many years ago. We don't need to get all the way over on Conor. We can move on. Do you think the women's divisions in the UFC is in trouble? Certain divisions are wiped out with 1 or 2 main people. If you're talking about featherweight, That division is probably in trouble, but maybe not. I didn't expect them to bring in Felicia. They did good. I hope they build this division because I think there is enough talent to at least get something going with it, especially when Nunes doesn't have to defend a title every couple of months in this because she also has a bantamweight division. I think this is actually the one scenario that super works for having a two-division champion. Bantamweight has been mostly cleaned out by Nunes, so she doesn't have to kind of stay there grinding through contenders. And featherweight is still such a nascent division. It gives the opportunity for her to defend both titles, for both divisions to get built up and kind of be good things. So I hope they keep supporting featherweight. As far as the other divisions, they're not going anywhere for women's division. Strawweight, flyweight. I know flyweight, I think everyone expected more flyweight. It'll get there. Give it time. It's a weight range that's going to have a lot of talent in it. It's going to feel a little bad because Shevchenko's so much better than everyone else. That's going to feel like a depressed division, but it'll get there. And bantamweight is going to be kind of one of the flagship divisions for women's mixed martial arts for a while. Bro, you even play chess. I'm not good at chess, but yes, I play chess. I don't want to pretend like I'm actually good at chess. Let's see. Why does everybody hate on Conor? He is fun to watch. I don't know. Max doesn't hit hard enough for 155. I don't think that's true. But I do think that kind of we saw how that played out. Dustin won that fight largely by on the basis of having more artillery than Max brought to the table. I still think Max can beat a lot of guys at 155. I don't think he's going to be a champion at 155 right now. But he's still 27, 28 years old. I know that everyone kind of has this fear about him being a little shock-born because he had those medical issues in the past. I think we can kind of put that to bed, and he's just sort of in the prime of his career. And so maybe in a few years he goes back up to lightweight and has a great run. We'll see. I think there are a ton of great fights for him there. So I hope we get to see it. Whoever mentioned Tony Ferguson earlier, who doesn't want to watch Max Holloway fight Tony Ferguson? That's a guaranteed fight of the year contender right there. Who would win, Khabib or Tony? I expect Khabib will fight Tony either early next year or the very end of this year after he beats Dustin Poirier. I have long maintained Khabib is going to roll through Tony, and nothing's changed for me. Tony Ferguson is a tremendous fighter. I don't want you to think I'm denigrating him in any way, shape, or form. He's not a great defensive wrestler. He's not tremendous off his back. I know that'll catch a lot of flack, but Kevin Lee beat the brakes off of him for the first round before he gassed out. And I just think it doesn't really match up well. He's also sneakily super old for the division. I think Tony Ferguson is like 35, and that's old to be a lightweight right now. If I'm wrong, sue me. Who cares? I still have always thought Khabib kind of beats Tony. I think there are a lot of matchups that are more difficult for Khabib than Tony. Thoughts on Pettis versus Max rematch or Edgar versus Cowboy? I don't think we need to see Pettis versus Max. Pettis is up at welterweight doing his thing. Edgar versus Cowboy, now that's a super fun fight I've never considered. That's kind of what I'd like to see Frankie do right now. I know that he was always an undersized lightweight anyway, but his career's on the downturn. I think this is his last title shot, pretty obviously. Anything left that he should be doing is legacy fights. He's done a few of those already. Those kind of like middling fights when he didn't have anywhere to go after losing to Aldo. But I think this is kind of we can get just some good fun fights from Frankie before he dips out. Not a ton of those at featherweight. I mean, they're fights I'd be interested or I'd watch, but I'm not super interested in. But Frankie versus Donald Cerrone, it's a fight I've never considered, and it's a fight that's pretty freaking fun. So I think we should. I'm down. Do that. I know Donald's about to fight Justin Gaethje. I suspect Gaethje will win that fight. If he does, then Cerrone Frankie, I'm all for it. Or hell, maybe now's the time just to do Frankie Conor. Maybe that's it. Maybe we need to go back to talking about Conor. Frankie Edgar versus Conor. It's probably a win for Conor, but it's kind of a good legacy fight in that regard as well. Frankie versus Dominick Cruz is a fight I long wanted to see back when I was hoping Frankie, after losing to Aldo the first time, would just immediately cut down to bantamweight. I'd still watch that fight. I know Dom's recovering. We'll see what happens there, but I'm definitely in on that. Joe Rogan versus retirement. Let's talk about Rogan. Tonight was really bad, and I don't want to bag on him too hard because I understand if you've never tried to do live commentary of an event, it's really difficult. but it was very, very bad. He was sticking with narratives way too long. The whole Cyborg is completely gassed. Like I said when I was talking about Cyborg earlier, I think there's a kernel of truth there, but he blew that up into a huge damn mountain. She was a little tired. She still outlanded Felicia Spencer by 400 strikes or something and won all 3 rounds and beat the brakes off her for the most part. It was a very bad performance. His call in the Frankie Max fight about I think they think Max or Frankie won the 3rd round. That's the only round that you could make a case for. Pretty obviously, the round that they thought he won was the 1st round. That's the round you can make a case for. He forgot that Cyborg was fighting a 3-round fight instead of a 5-rounder. Just a really bad night from Rogan. One he'll, if he goes back and watches the tape, he'd like to forget, and one we should all try and forget as well. Rogan needs something to work with. The card was dull. His comedy is bad, though. Rogan does. The card was dull, and that's why I say I don't want to bag too hard on him. There were a couple of bright moments, but there was a lot of not where you want to be. And, it makes it hard. Again, I totally understand it. It's difficult. It's a difficult job to do. But we also can't ignore the fact that this was probably the worst performance Joe Rogan's ever had on the mic. Joe Rogan was just wrong about many stuff, saying punches were landing when they didn't. Again, that kind of comes part and parcel with it. They don't have a great view. Sometimes you're going to think that punches land when they don't. It's just how it is. Where's Jimmy Smith? Thought he was supposed to spell Rogan. Jimmy Smith left the UFC after his year. He had a 1-year contract. He's done with that. I think they should have re-signed him and kept him around, but they did not. That's their choice to make. Cool. Let's talk about fights. I would love to talk about fights. Tell me what fights you'd want to talk about. Rogan had a bad weight cut. I don't think. Where did 48-47 come from? I have no idea. No clue at all. My best guess, and I'm not looking at the scorecards, I'm not here talking to you fine folks, is that they gave Frankie the 1st and the 3rd, and they gave him the 3rd for that takedown. If they did, that's completely indefensible. But because I just don't know where else you get it. Frankly, I think you could have thrown all 5 rounds at Max. I think I gave Frankie the 1st one. I saw a lot of people on Twitter giving Max the 1st one. I think it's defensible. Max did land the harder punches, but Frankie landed more, and I gave him a lot of credit for the leg kicks. I think that was an effective strategy he got away with. How did Spencer take so many shots? Tough as nails, man. I don't have any idea how. I thought in the 1st round she ate a lot of clean shots. It looked like that they'd put her down, but she just wasn't able to. I mean, Cyborg. I don't think Cyborg's lost any punching power. I think Felicia Spencer's just that tough. Colby versus Lawler. Who you guys got? I'm going to take Colby. Seems pretty easy. Do you think Volkanovski has a chance against Max? Yes. I think he has a good chance against Max. I'll still pick Max. But Volkanovski is going to pressure. He's going to pressure a lot more than Frankie was able to. He doesn't have quite the physical limitations Frankie does as far as he's not 37 years old. He's going to throw a lot more volume. He's probably a better wrestler at this point. Just kind of a more hard-nosed fighter at this point. I think that gives him a chance. It's going to be a tremendous fight that's probably going to do 200,000 pay-per-views and no one's going to care about. Frankie got 1st and 3rd. The 3rd was so boring, should have been 10-10. No, that's just incorrect. Somehow Luke Rockhold trending on Twitter. Nico Price early stoppage. We're going to wrap this up in a minute, but I did want to talk about this, so thank you for that, Joey Foti. I don't think it was an early stoppage. I think maybe you let it go 1 punch more, but it's totally fine. Nico Price was getting jawed from full guard, and he kind of turned over a couple of times. He looked like maybe he was totally out of it, and then he sort of rolled away. And as soon as you start doing that kind of roll away, and it wasn't a good shrimp away, he was just sort of rolling. I think that's totally fine stoppage. Jeff Neal is a hell of a fighter. I say Frankie goes to 135 and takes out Cejudo. Again, I'd like to see him 135. I'd like him to, if he's going to go, I'd like him to face Dom Cruz. I don't think he has anything for Cejudo at this point. Ortega versus Korean Zombie. That fight's going to be awesome. I have long been a proponent that Brian Ortega is not good at fighting. I've been very, very wrong on that point. But he is the kind of fighter that I have a hard time kind of getting a hold of. By that I mean he has lost most of the fights he's ever been in. He is losing until he wins them. Um, he's sort of Yoel Romero in that, or esque in that kind of way, and it just makes it hard for me to see him as this great fighter. But he obviously is, and he's definitely getting better. Uh, different way of that. Korean Zombie's also getting tremendously better as a skilled fighter. They're both two high action dudes. The fight's going to be bananas. I think you have to favor Ortega just because he is such a good finishing threat, but can't wait to watch that. Rate the card out of 10. We'll end up on this because we got to get to the rest of the coverage for you fine folks. Out of a 10, I'm going to give this a 6.5. Not great, arguably not a passing grade, but it's totally fine. You had a couple of gems in there. Hakeem Dawadu, great KO. Jeff Neal, tremendous performance. Davison Figueiredo, that's a hell of a fight, and that dude is probably going to challenge for a title someday. So enjoy it. Guys, thank you for coming along on this experiment with me. It's the first post-fight live chat. I'm sure there's some kinks we'll work out going down the line, but I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed the fights this evening, and keep it locked to MMAfighting.com for all your UFC 240 coverage needs.